Hey and welcome back. Today I'm going to take you on a journey with me. For the last 3 weeks, I've known that humans have been in touch with an extraterrestrial non-human civilizations since 2019. What do I do with this information? And is it true? Hey viewers, this has really taxed me, and it's taken me a long time to decide to actually do a film about it, because if it's not true, I seem like the ultimate plonker. If it is true, why am I bringing you this information, and why isn't the person who wanted to share it with me telling CNN or the BBC? You know, it's world-changing news. So I have a real dilemma with this story. But there's a lot of it that checks out. So today, follow me on this journey, a journey where I've asked this person really difficult questions, really put him on the spot. We've had times where we've communicated over Zoom type calls, over the telephone, over WhatsApp, everything. And I've really given him a hard time. And he checks out. The guy who contacted me is the semi-retired but still working head of a pan-European radio telescope network. I know his name, but he doesn't want to share it publicly. So it gave me the opportunity to check him out with his colleagues, and absolutely, I mean, he was in charge of radio telescopes in Europe, so he knows what he's talking about. He also worked for a large German car manufacturer beginning with P, building all their networking telecommunications for their electric cars. The guy's super important and, you know, highly skilled and knows about radio telescopes and radio telecommunication. So he definitely knows what he's talking about. So the first question is, how did they find the signal? So as I said, I've given this guy a really hard time. I've asked him direct questions, and if he doesn't answer them, I'm just not doing the film. But he's answered most of them. So how did they, and who are they, find the signal? All right, so his answer goes like this. There's an organization called SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. And SETI started a whole bunch of years ago when data collection, storage, and processing was difficult. So Frank Drake, who wrote the Drake equation, and the science broadcaster and researcher Carl Sagan came up with a protocol that SETI can use. And their idea was to just listen to a narrow band that they thought was the most likely place that aliens would communicate. It makes sense. I mean, they can't listen back in the 60s everywhere, and if they could listen everywhere, the amount of information would be too hard to process. So they decided to limit SETI's search for ET by listening in the hydrogen band. Now, hydrogen is an element that's omnipresent in our universe, and it vibrates and it makes a noise. If you've got a radio telescope, I don't have one, and listen anywhere, you'll hear the distinctive buzz of hydrogen. So Sagan and Drake surmised that if you just listen in the hydrogen band, an ET would know that we can hear it, they can hear it, so it would be an ideal frequency to choose to communicate. But it has a problem. I reached out to very top radio astronomers, and they confirmed this hydrogen band and said, yeah, it's everywhere and it's quite noisy. That means that if an ET was actually transmitting a low power I Love Lucy show in the hydrogen band, you probably wouldn't hear it because it would be masked by the noise of hydrogen. So this pan-European alternative to SETI, this guy works for, decided now in the 21st century we can listen in a much wider broadband wavelengths, everywhere in fact, because we have the processing. So they've decided to listen in the quiet spots between natural radiation frequencies, not the hydrogen band or other bands, but in the bits between. That makes perfect sense. And in 2019, they found an ET non-terrestrial mechanical signal coming from deep space, he says. Okay, that's amazing. So my next hard question to him is, why didn't you publish it? Why didn't you tell the world? Why isn't it peer reviewed? Why isn't it in scientific journals? You are the chairperson of a large European radio telescope organization. His telescopes are in Germany, Italy, and Russia. Why didn't you publish the fact? It's an amazing piece of information. I mean, other signals like the WOW signal and Little Green Men signal immediately got a lot of publicity, but this one, nothing, nada. So does that make it not true? So he has a really good answer for that, and that is, so they found the signal and they decided to approach the United Nations for advice. And the UN have a policy on ET and us meeting aliens. They even have an ET officer who's in charge of it. And they advised this European organization not to reveal it to the world in one big press release, but to come up with a 25-year plan of release, of disclosure. And we're currently in year 5. And year 5 says in the plan that by year 5 you know about UAP, UFOs and aliens are in the news all the time, and you're slowly building up over this 25 years to the point where the world understands that there is something out there. We don't know what it is. Then in 2030, whatever, 2035, it comes out that we've actually made contact back in 2019. That's what he says the disclosure timeline is currently at, year 5. All right, good answer, says me. That kind of makes sense for where we are in the kind of UAP story with Congress and other people. You know, UFOs and aliens and the whole UAP and what are they, who are they? Are they here on Earth? Are they contacting us? Is there probes? All these kind of questions are now in the public domain. People are talking about it. It's popular. It's trending, as I find on YouTube. It's certainly a topic of conversation that most people discuss. There's absolutely no evidence that they exist, but we have raised consciousness, or a group have raised consciousness, you know, the Leslie Keans and the of this world and the Luis Elizondos have actually got the whole alien UAP thing into the public domain. Maybe that's what they are paid to do. I don't know. There's no evidence that we actually have contact, but maybe we have we definitely have raised awareness, without a doubt. So his answer was good on that. I kind of like it. So the next obvious big question, mate, is who are they? Where are they? Where did the signal come from? He doesn't want to say the exact constellation, the star system, but he did confirm that it was just over 11 light years away. Well, that's a massive problem, isn't it? So, this is vital that you understand this. Radio telecommunication signals travel at the speed of light, a constant set by Albert Einstein. Nothing can go faster than the speed of light. So, for example, you send a message to the moon, it takes about 3 seconds. There's a delay because it's a long way away. You send a message to Mars and it takes whatever. Is it 20 minutes, 30 minutes? It's a very long way away. AET, a non-terrestrial intelligence on a distant planet, I guess, round a star, 11 light years away, the signal takes 11 years. So the signal that they supposedly picked up in 2019 actually left in, what was that, 2008? So it took 11 years. The I Love Lucy alien show took 11 years to transit to Earth until we heard it. And then, if we're talking to them and went, "Ooh, hi, we got your signal. Who are you?" and sent that back, say in the first year, which is kind of unlikely, but just imagine, it would take 11 years to get back to planet Zog, wouldn't it? It's a 22-year round trip. It's a very slow communication. And in fact, they still haven't got it. If we transmitted a signal in RF using a large radio telescope back to where the source of the signal that supposedly he picked up was, it won't get there till what, 2031? It's going to be a long time till, and then it's going to take 11 years for them to reply. But he said, we talked to them in real time. Well, it's starting getting into science fiction, says Simon. I'm beginning to look like a plonker. Until he told me about quantum tunneling communication. What's that? Oh, this is really, this bit of what I'm telling you is probably the only thing that I'm saying today which I can completely verify and say is real. The rest, I'm leaving it up to you, to your imagination and the evidence that I presented, to bring your own conclusions to whether we actually have been in contact since 2019. But his answer to my question about 11-year two-way conversation, 22 years to and fro, that doesn't make any sense, was quantum tunneling. What's that? Well, it's real. It's currently probably deployed. The military probably use it right now. It's a way of communicating instantly over vast distances, faster than the speed of light. Supposedly, it's already operational to talk to space satellite assets. And it's not directional either. So you could have a quantum tunneling communication device at a headquarters in Omaha, Nebraska, and talk to a ship in the Pacific or in the Middle East instantly, with no delay or waiting for the ionosphere to work out properly. Just bleh. But is that real? Yes. So I asked him all about it and said, tell me the science of quantum communicating. And he did. So you have to understand that when Niels Bohr and the quantum physicists worked out that things in the very small subatomic world don't work the same as the big world, so you have this quantum world, they discovered this thing where pairs of quantized subatomic particles are connected. So if one is spinning, say, up, which is anti-clockwise, and it has a pair, it has a twin pair, which is spinning down, which is clockwise. And that connection with these pairs can be vast distances apart. They can be at the other side of the universe, and they still seem to communicate. Now, Albert Einstein hated it and had this big row with Niels Bohr. And Albert Einstein called this spooky action at a distance. I think the word spooky is brilliant. Thank you, Albert. Because it doesn't make any sense. How does one atom or one quantized particle spinning tell another one to spin in the other direction? And if you look at this one and it starts spinning that way, the other one will reverse over a vast distance. How does it communicate? Well, it would need to communicate faster than the speed of light. Albert Einstein hated it. That's not how it works. What the quantum world is actually saying, this is mind-boggling, is our sense of reality of time and space and distance isn't true. We actually only must live in a flat plane where everything is actually connected, where everything is touching, and we only perceive time, distance, and space in our perception of normal reality, where in fact in the quantum world, everything is interconnected. That's as far as I'm going to go on that subject. So how do you make quantum tunneling communication work? Well, you do in a university in Germany. This guy checks out. This guy actually has done it. He actually demonstrates it. It's peer reviewed, it's in papers. He even gets his undergraduate students to copy the experiment. So today I'm going to tell you how quantum tunneling does work and is probably being used today, and of course could talk to our friends on the planet Zog if they had a quantum tunneling receiver. another question. So this is the experiment, and maybe I will do some drawings to illustrate it. So imagine you have a source of photons, in this case microwave photons, just somewhere else in the electromagnetic spectrum, and you pulse them. So you're having ping, 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 and you shine the microwaves into this, a prism. The microwaves are going to go into the prism and be refracted 90 degrees and come out of the prism to a detector. Then you're going to have an oscilloscope that's going to show the top trace is the pulses of the origin of the beam. So ping, ping, ping. And the second trace on the oscilloscope is the detector that detects the microwaves that have refracted 90 degrees through the big prism to a detector. And that's going to go ping, ping, ping. But there's going to be a tiny delay because the microwaves had to travel through air, through the prism, through air to the detector. So you can detect that there is a slight delay, which corresponds to normal physics. Got it? But that's not quantum tunneling. Turns out that some of the microwaves don't refract. Some of them carry on in a straight line. This is really simplifying it. This is because in quantum tunneling, the quantum photon actually fits inside an atom. It's not reflected or bounced off atomic matter. It actually goes through the subatomic bits of an atom. That's the way I understand it. So a quantum tunneling effect happens. Imagine now you have a second prism. The quantum tunneling signal will go straight in a straight line to the second prism, where it then bounces inside the prism to another detector. Now you've got three traces on your oscilloscope. You've got ping, 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 the signal, pong, 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 the original signal on this first prism, and this detector on the second distant prism that's looking at these quantum particles that have gone through the time and space to the second prism. Where would the signal be? Well, you would imagine it would be ping, 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 then slightly delayed for the first one, and then blink. The third signal on the trace would be very slow because, of course, it had to traverse time and space to get, it doesn't work like that. The third signal is exactly in lockstep with the second signal. So you've got the first origin, ping, and then the two detectors, one a million miles apart from the second one, both pinging at the same time. Amazing. For some apparent reason, as the photon leaves the first prism, it appears in the second prism. So the moment it leaves the first, it's already entering the second. The bit in between, the space, the million miles, the 11 light years, or the billions of light years, doesn't exist. It's totally ping together. So you can send a signal out of a quantum tunneling device and receive it at any distance. Instantly it leaves the first device, it enters the second device. So then you can have a communication, maybe. That's how it works. So you can actually build this at home, given an oscilloscope, two big plexiglass prisms, and a microwave source. And I will post in the description a link to this guy called Nimitz who actually did the work. It's real. I think it's currently deployed. But are we in touch with ET? I've no idea. It's a lot of what this guy said makes sense. He's a very sensible chap. He's a very important chap. He checks out. His colleagues confirmed that he's real. This pan-European network that isn't working like SETI, that's looking for ET in the quiet spots, exists. I know where the telescopes are. I know their work, but they haven't published it. If they did contact the United Nations, are we in a 25-year disclosure plan? And we're currently in year 5, where everybody's talking about ET and UAP? Yes. So is it real, or am I a plonker? I think I'm just going to let you decide. I definitely know quantum tunneling exists. I definitely know it works. I've also got good evidence that it's currently deployed. as a system that works. It's a really interesting dilemma for me as a YouTube creator who wants to share stuff with you. Do I just tell you everything everybody tells me? No, I check it out. Some of this checks out, and other parts might be far-fetched. I guess the truth is out there.